Can you hear me okay? Yep. So my name's Anthony Weymouth. I'm the Senior Trade Commissioner for Central Europe for the Australian Trade Commission, based in Warsaw. It's my privilege to be here today to talk to you what mining has done for Australia. We've heard a lot about Canada today, and mining in Canada and Australia have a lot in common. We've both benefited greatly from the mining industry, so what I'd like to do today is just share with you some of the benefits that mining has brought to our country. So we've been mining in Australia for about 200 years. This is a map. It's not really of every single mining operation in Australia, but it gives you some feel that mining happens nearly everywhere in Australia, and it has brought a lot of prosperity to our nation. In fact, Australia as a country, it was announced about 2 weeks ago, has achieved 26 years of consecutive economic growth. It's the only developed country in the world to do that, and mining has had a very significant impact in achieving that goal. Here's just a quick snapshot of our industry. So about $160 billion a year in exports, accounts for 10% of our GDP. It's a very significant number, and I won't go through the what we're number 1, 2, 3 and 4 at. But I will talk about this, and this is where economic development really happens. I was working in the Philippines for the last 5 years. Australia does provide a lot of economic assistance to the Philippines through the aid program, but very significant investment in the mining activity, I think, will bring forward communities a lot more efficiently and more long-term than what aid programs will, for example. But if you look at these numbers, the mining industry has contributed $177 billion, $177 billion in tax and royalties to state and local government in the last 10 years. Just last year alone, the bill was $12 billion. So it's a very significant contribution to the Australian economy. Employment, 225,000 people work in the Australian mining industry directly. So that's the direct number. The indirect number goes about 10 times that. So it's a very large employer. Workplace diversity. The mining sector in Australia, as we've already heard, does not happen in the city. It happens in regional locations. And in these regional locations, the mining sector is the largest employer of Indigenous Australians. Very important. And it was mentioned before about mining's contribution to innovation. Last year, Australian mining companies spent $3 billion on R&D. So again, that's a very large component to our economy, and importantly, 6,500 patents came out of that innovation. Oops. There's just a quick snapshot of some of the regional contribution that mining has made to Australia last year. They're the numbers. I won't go through those, but what I will talk about a little bit is how mining, agriculture and tourism can all live happily together. And you know, we've heard a little bit, this last section was all about corporate social responsibility. We've heard about engagement with the community. And often mining does get a bad reputation for, if you're mining in one location, you can't do anything else there. Well, in Australia, in New South Wales, about 2 hours north of Sydney, we've got a place called the Hunter Valley. The Hunter Valley, I'm not sure whether anybody's been there. Been mining for over 200 years. There's 35 operating coal mines, and it actually has one of the largest coal exporting ports in the world. But in this very same location, so it employs about 94,000 people, the mining industry in the Hunter Valley. In the very same location, we've got 150 wineries producing some of Australia's best Chardonnay and Shiraz. It's a very, very popular tourist destination. This is just every year they have this balloon festival in the Hunter Valley, and people in Sydney, they'll either go to see the kangaroos like this, or they'll go up for activities like the balloon festival. And I think it's a really important point just to highlight that mining, agriculture, tourism can all live happily together if done in a sensible way. So mining has benefited the Australian economy enormously, as I've said, but Australian mining companies going around the world are doing the same things in communities overseas. And Rio Tinto's project here will do that for Serbia. I'm very confident of that. Even in Warsaw, where I'm currently based, there's an Australian company developing a coking coal operation. In an area of Poland that is less developed, where the unemployment rate is relatively high to the rest of Poland. This company is going to employ about 2,000 people. The initial capex budget is $632 million US. So this is an Australian company going into a regional location, investing and also generating jobs. So Australia has benefited greatly from mining, and I think there's a great opportunity for Serbia to do the same. I was really impressed listening to the various presentations today talking about the regulatory environment, the cooperation between the Serbian government and investors coming in. But I was also interested to hear one of our latest speakers talking about some of the challenges that still exist. And I think it's very important that we focus on trying to remove those barriers, and particularly when you've got an investment cycle that's moved from 5 years to now 25 years, or even beyond, according to some of our speakers. So I think it's really important for the Serbian government to think about some of these policy frameworks, making sure that the government is open to foreign investment and trade, making sure that the taxation policy does provide an equal or a fair split between the government and the investor. And importantly, we heard a lot today also about the importance of time. If you are wanting to progress your project, often regulatory processes are complicated, and they should be, because we're talking about a very important area, but by the same token they should be streamlined as much as possible to enable the investor and the government to make sure that both of them can move the project forward as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. We will have our next speaker, Branislav Grbovic, Project Director and Regional Director from AMEC Foster Wheeler, Australia.